Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that might just disturb your sense of normal. You don't become rich, you remember you already are. Not because you've got a vault full of gold or a string of passive incomes feeding your bank. No, because wealth isn't something you chase. It's something you inhabit. Acting like a millionaire is not pretending. It's alignment. You're not faking success. You're finally stepping into it. You stop waiting for the right moment. You become the moment. Look at people who never seem to worry about money. They don't chase, they attract. Why? Because they carry themselves as if the universe already said yes. So why should you keep watching this? Because until you understand this inner shift, you will forever chase the outer world, and it will keep running. You see, the person who feels poor inside could win a lottery and still end up bankrupt. But the one who feels wealthy, even when they have little, is already laying the foundation for more. Wealth is a frequency, and you are the radio. Tune in and start asking yourself, do you walk like someone the world should listen to? Do you speak like someone who has options? Do you dress, think, behave like the version of you who has already arrived? Because here's the twist. You're not acting to deceive anyone. You're acting to wake yourself up. When you act rich, you're not impressing others. You're programming your nervous system to believe it's safe, to win, to expand, to live boldly. That's how millionaires think. Not from lack, not from fear, but from choice. They understand this. Money follows certainty. Opportunities follow energy. And the universe follows intention. Pause for a second, not to look at your bank balance, but to scan your belief balance. Do you believe you deserve more? Do you trust yourself with power, influence, and freedom? Do you allow yourself to dream beyond your current situation? If not, you'll keep shrinking to fit the room you're in. But when you begin walking, thinking, and moving like that future version of yourself, not arrogantly, but with clarity, then life begins to shift. People start to notice. Doors quietly open, and money flows where belief has already gone. And remember, you're not chasing wealth, you're mirroring it. You're not hoping to be lucky, you're choosing to be ready. Because when you act like you're already a millionaire, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop explaining your dreams. You stop asking for permission. You become the permission. Start today, not with a new income stream, but with a new energy stream. Not with force, but with frequency. Because the person who feels abundant now will inevitably live it later. You don't need $1 million in your account to start thinking like a millionaire. In fact, that mindset must come long before the money does. Wealth is not something that suddenly appears in your life and transforms your thinking. It's your thinking that transforms your reality. Before you see in numbers, you must feel it in your bones. It's a shift that happens in the mind, a silent declaration to the universe that you are no longer operating from lack, from fear, from limitation. Imagine someone who walks into a room like they already own the place, not out of arrogance, but from quiet self-certainty. That energy is magnetic. People notice, opportunities notice, life notices. And the paradox is this. Those who already think and act like they are wealthy attract more wealth, while those who constantly think like they are poor, no matter how much money they actually have, remain in a cycle of scarcity. Because mindset isn't a reaction to money. This is why some people lose everything and build it back again, because their internal programming is already set to abundance. They understand that their true wealth is not in their possessions, but in their perspective. They carry the blueprint of wealth inside them, and that blueprint builds reality like clockwork. Their thoughts are disciplined, their habits intentional, their self-talk empowering, and these things cannot be taken away, even if their circumstances temporarily change. Now look at the other side. Someone who comes into sudden wealth, but has never adjusted their inner world. Their fear is still dominant. Their belief in themselves is still fragile. Their energy is still laced with unworthiness. That person will lose what they gained, not because they're unlucky, but because their mindset was never aligned with holding abundance. It's like pouring water into a cracked vessel. No matter how much you pour, it leaks. Ask yourself, what if acting like a millionaire isn't about pretending, but preparing? Not about showing off, but showing up as the version of you who no longer questions your own worth. This isn't about buying designer clothes or driving a flashy car. It's about the subtle yet powerful habits that the wealthy carry, the confidence in their decisions, the way they treat time like a valuable asset, the way they invest in knowledge, relationships, and self-discipline. And when you think like a millionaire, you don't wait for motivation, you act from commitment. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to stop, and instead see them as part of the terrain. You no longer waste time comparing yourself to others, because your focus is fixed on building, growing, becoming. That mindset is rare, and it's exactly why it works. It separates you from the masses, who wait for the world to approve of them before they move. But when you move from within, from certainty, vision, and conviction, the outer world has no choice but to catch up. It's easy to say, I believe I'm wealthy once I see the results. But that's not how energy works. That's not how transformation works. You don't wait to feel confident until you've succeeded. You develop confidence, and then success follows. The same is true for wealth. Feel it now. Act as if it's already yours. Make decisions from that place. Speak from that place. Dress, walk, and breathe from that place. Not to impress others, but to rewire yourself. Because your reality is a mirror. It doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. And the deeper truth is, you're not just trying to become a millionaire. You're trying to become the person who deserves to be one. And that person already lives inside you. You don't need to wait, you need to remember. You don't need to earn your worth, you need to awaken it. Act like you're already a millionaire. Not for the sake of ego, but to remind yourself of what you're truly capable of. Because the moment you start thinking like wealth, speaking like wealth, and carrying yourself like wealth, is the moment wealth starts thinking about you too. Acting rich has never been about luxury, labels, or living beyond your means. It's not about flaunting, impressing, or pretending. It's about self-worth, real self-worth, the kind that doesn't demand applause, the kind that doesn't shrink in the face of challenge. When you act rich in spirit, in posture, in tone, you're not trying to convince others. You're communicating to yourself that you are enough, that you are worthy of more, not because of what you own, but because of how you see yourself. You've been conditioned to associate wealth with things, big houses, expensive cars, designer clothes. But the truly wealthy carry themselves in a way that transcends possessions. From, um, from, fr They walk into a room without speaking and still make the loudest statement, not because they have money, but because they carry a calm, quiet certainty about who they are. That certainty comes from self-respect, self-trust, and self-worth. It is this internal foundation that attracts external wealth, not the other way around. If you wait to feel worthy until after you've made it, you'll always be chasing. You'll always be one step behind, believing that the next thing, the next deal, the next opportunity, the next dollar will finally make you feel valuable, that you are already deserving of wealth, success, and abundance, right now, as you are. That shift changes everything. Because when you feel worthy, you make decisions differently. You stop settling. You stop begging for crumbs when you could own the whole table. People can sense energy, and energy doesn't lie. When you know your worth, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to chase people, jobs, or recognition. You walk like someone who already belongs, and the world starts to respond to you in kind. Doors opened because of how you carry yourself, not because you ask politely. The energy of worth is unmistakable. It's grounded, calm, powerful, and the beauty is you don't need money to access it. You need presence. You need belief. Start observing how you treat yourself. Do you speak to yourself like someone of value? Do you show up for your goals with respect and intention? Or do you constantly criticize yourself, doubt yourself, and shrink back when things get hard? The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how the world treats you. If you carry yourself like someone who doesn't believe they're worthy of more, the world will echo that belief right back at you. When you begin to act rich, not in the superficial sense, but in the energetic, internal sense, you elevate every room you enter. You speak with clarity because you're no longer trying to be liked. You make decisions with confidence because you trust your instincts. You hold your time and energy sacred because you understand their value. This is how the rich truly operate. And it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with identity. You might be struggling financially right now. You might be working a job you don't love or building a dream that feels far away. But if you wait for outside circumstances to validate your worth, you will waste your life in a holding pattern. You don't have to wait. You can begin now. You can act rich by valuing your voice, protecting your peace, and moving with purpose. And when you do, you'll notice something profound. People treat you differently. Life starts showing up with more respect. Opportunities appear where they were once invisible. Why? Because you've raised your internal standard. Wealth is not a destination, it's an attitude. It's a posture. It's the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It's the quiet confidence that says, I belong here. I deserve to be in the room. I am ready for more. And when that energy becomes your default, you no longer chase, you attract. Don't act rich to impress anyone. Act rich because you finally understand who you are. Because you're no longer willing to walk like a beggar in a world that responds to kings and queens. Because your worth was never up for debate, and now, finally, you remember scarcity is not a financial condition. It is a mental prison. You can have little and still feel rich, or have millions and still live in fear of losing it all. Scarcity does not begin in your wallet. It begins in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in the stories you tell yourself every day. And abundance, true abundance, begins the moment you stop chasing and start aligning. We've been taught to hustle harder, to grind longer, to accumulate endlessly as if safety lies in numbers. But the truth is, no amount of money can fill the hole left by a mindset rooted in lack. Scarcity is a ghost. It lingers, is in your decisions, whispers in your self-doubt, and convinces you to play small. It tells you there's never enough. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough love. So you hoard, you cling, you fear. But what if that story is a lie? What if you paused, just for a moment, and considered the possibility that the world is not against you, but waiting for you? What if abundance is not something you chase down with desperation, but something you become in stillness? Scarcity wants you to keep running. It wants you to think you have to earn your place, prove your value, and grind for every ounce of joy. But abundance comes when you realize your worth is not conditional. It's not tied to your productivity, your status, or your income. It simply is. Most people operate like beggars, spiritually bankrupt, constantly seeking something to make them feel whole. They think if they can just earn a little more, look a little better, get a little further, they'll finally feel peace. But peace is not found in achievement, it's found in awareness. When you recognize that life itself is abundant, you stop acting like you're in competition with everyone around you. You stop clenching your fists and start opening your hands. Because abundance flows to those who are ready to receive, not those who are afraid to lose. Think of the people who radiate wealth, not just in material terms, but in presence. They give freely, speak with calm, and move with grace. That's not because they have everything figured out. It's because they've stopped operating from fear. They've stopped believing that life is a battlefield and started seeing it as a dance. Scarcity makes you rigid, anxious, desperate. Abundance makes you fluid, confident, generous. And this isn't about being reckless or naive. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing the lens through which you view reality. Scarcity will always offer you evidence if you look for it. News headlines, personal setbacks, moments of rejection. But abundance offers its own proof too. In the sunrise, in opportunities disguised as setbacks, in quiet moments of alignment when everything just clicks. So how do you shift? You stop measuring your value by what you lack. You stop saying, I'll feel secure when, and start asking, how can I align with abundance now? Maybe it means investing in yourself when it feels scary. Maybe it means letting go of relationships built on fear. Maybe it means taking a risk because your future self is already waiting on the other side. You align with abundance, not through external accumulation, but through internal calibration. Scarcity says, there's not enough, I must hold on. Abundance says, there's more than enough, I can let go. And letting go doesn't mean carelessness. It means trust. It means understanding that your value doesn't disappear when things go wrong. It means knowing that your worth isn't dependent on circumstances, and that what's meant for you cannot be taken from you. Scarcity thrives in silence and secrecy. It grows when you suppress your desires and settle for less. But abundance begins to grow the moment you speak your truth, walk in purpose, and trust that life will rise to meet you. You don't need more proof. You don't need more time. You need alignment. So stop chasing. Start becoming. Abundance is not a place you arrive at. It's a state of being you return to. And when you remember that, you'll realize the prison of scarcity was never locked. You were just holding the key all along. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. This is one of the hardest truths for most people to accept. We are conditioned to believe that desire alone moves mountains, that wanting something badly enough should be enough to bring it into our reality. But life isn't shaped by what you wish for. It is shaped by the identity you embody. And when there's a gap between what you want and who you are, the world reflects that gap back to you in every experience, every rejection, every delay. You may say you want to be wealthy, confident, successful, but if you carry the energy of fear, insecurity, or lack, the results you attract will match that. Because life listens not to your words, but to your frequency. You can speak about abundance all day, but if you feel small inside, if you doubt yourself, if you move through the world like someone undeserving of more, then that is the signal you're broadcasting. And the universe is always listening to that signal, not your surface level desires. This is why some people, without trying too hard, seem to attract opportunity after opportunity. They're not faking confidence. They are confident. They don't chase, they attract. Why? Because they've become the version of themselves who naturally receives the things others are still begging for. Their inner world is in harmony with what they desire, so the outer world aligns in response. They've closed the gap. But the opposite is true as well. You can try every method, read every book, and follow every rule. But if deep down you're still carrying a version of yourself who believes you are not enough, the results will continue to reflect that. It's not punishment, it's reflection. The world is always reflecting back to you what you are. Not to judge you, but to make you aware you don't get what you want because you want it. You get what matches your self-concept. And your self-concept is not built overnight. It's shaped by the stories you repeat to yourself, the energy you move with, and the standards you refuse to lower. If you think like a leader, speak like a leader, Walk like a leader. Eventually, the world begins to see you as one, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. The question isn't, what do I want? The deeper question is, who am I becoming? Because becoming is the bridge between desire and manifestation. When your identity rises to meet your dreams, those dreams no longer feel distant. They feel inevitable. They are simply a reflection of who you now are. Think about it this way. You don't tell a tree to grow, it just does. Why? Because it's aligned with its nature. The seed doesn't fight to become an oak, it simply follows its design. You too have a design, one that moves you toward greatness, abundance, peace. But that design can only unfold when you stop pretending and start aligning, when you stop trying to act your way into success and instead become the person who naturally creates success. This is not about delusion, it's about energetic congruence. If you desire freedom, ask yourself, do your habits reflect freedom or fear? If you want wealth, do your daily choices reflect wealth or scarcity? The truth is always found in how you live, not in what you say. And when your way of being aligns with the version of you that already has what you want, life begins to respond differently. You notice synchronicities. You meet the right people. Doors open, not by force, but by reflection. You don't have to beg for what already belongs to you. You simply have to become the version of yourself who knows it. The world cannot help but respond. It always does. The mirror never lies. It only shows you what you're holding. So hold confidence. Hold clarity. Hold the identity of someone who already is. Because when you stop trying to manipulate the mirror and instead change the image in front of it, everything changes. The world is not withholding anything from you. It's simply waiting for you to become the version of you who no longer has to ask. Success rarely falls into the hands of those who wait passively for the perfect moment. It flows to those who already move, walk and speak as if it's theirs. The people who rise, the ones who create real momentum in life, are not always the most talented, the most connected, or the most privileged. More often, they are the ones who decide that they belong in the room, that they are ready, that they have already arrived. Internally, long before anyone else agrees, there is a distinct power in acting as if you already own your future. Not because you're faking it, but because you're choosing to operate from the energy of your highest self. You stop waiting for permission. You stop hesitating. You stop needing proof from the outside world that you're enough. Instead, you behave like the future version of you, the one who has already built the dream, who already lives with freedom, confidence, and fulfillment. And that behavior becomes a magnetic field that draws reality into alignment with it. Behavior is not just action, it's belief in motion. It's your posture, your pace, the way you look people in the eye, the way you respond to difficulty. It's every subtle signal you send to yourself and the world that says, I know who I am becoming, and I'm already living it. This is why action without identity often fails. You can work hard, follow the right strategies, and still feel stuck if your internal identity is rooted in lack or doubt. But when you shift your identity, first, when you become before you receive, You move differently. You speak with more power. You make decisions that align with long-term vision rather than short-term comfort. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing people in situations that are beneath the person you're becoming. And this is where success begins to stick, not just as a temporary win, but as a natural outcome of who you are. Many people think they need to wait until they have external success to feel like a success. But they have it backward. Success isn't based on you must feel like a success before the world recognizes it. You must walk like someone worthy of greatness before the accolades, the wealth, or the applause. Not because you're pretending, but because your internal conviction is so strong that it becomes a gravitational force. People sense it. Life senses it. Opportunity senses it. When you behave as if it's already yours, something remarkable happens. Your choices change. You no longer tolerate things that drain your energy or disrespect your value. You align your daily actions with a higher standard. You take care of your body, your time, and your focus, not out of obligation, but because you see yourself as someone who deserves to be treated well. You stop sacrificing your future for momentary pleasure. You make space for the life you say you want. And it's not about arrogance. It's not about acting above others. It's about becoming deeply grounded in the belief that you are allowed to live a life that reflects your true potential. You're not waiting to arrive. You're already walking in alignment with that future. You're not performing. You're preparing. And that distinction is everything. This mindset doesn't just change how you think. It changes how you're treated. People begin to respond to you differently. You find yourself in rooms you never imagined. Conversations shift. Respect increases. Why? Because energy introduces you before you speak. And when you carry the energy of someone who is already living their highest timeline, the world mirrors it back. You don't become successful by accident. You become successful by aligning your behavior with your vision consistently, quietly, even when no one is watching. Especially then. That is the test. That is where greatness begins, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where you decide every day to act as if it's already yours. Ask yourself, what would the successful version of you do today? How would they show up? What would they say no to? What would they focus on? Then go do it. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the more you act like it's already yours, the faster the world catches up. Confidence is not a personality trait reserved for the bold or the extroverted. It is a choice, a mental and emotional decision you make to trust yourself even in uncertainty. And in the process of becoming who you want to be, confidence is the most powerful currency you possess. It's not just about how you speak or how you stand. It's the energy behind your presence. The world may not always respond to your talent immediately, but it will always respond to your energy. And when that energy says, I believe in myself, doors begin to open that were once invisible. Imagine walking into every room as if you belong there, not because of arrogance, but because of certainty. Imagine making decisions not from fear of loss, but from clarity of purpose. That's the kind of confidence that magnetizes opportunity. And it begins not with having all the answers, but with the courage to act before you do. Confidence is not about being right. It's about being willing. When you carry the internal belief that you are capable, ready, and worthy, your actions follow that belief. You take risks. You speak up. You move forward. Not because you know the outcome, but because you trust your ability to handle whatever the outcome may be. That's the confidence that builds empires. It's not loud or aggressive. It's grounded and unshakable. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just is. Now think about how many people live in hesitation. How many dreams are buried beneath the surface of self-doubt? How many chances are never taken simply because someone waited to feel confident before acting? But it doesn't work that way. You don't feel confident and then act. You act, and through action you become confident. Through repetition, discomfort, and courage, you stretch your limits. You train your nervous system to handle more. And every time you do, you expand your container for success. Confidence is the signal you send to the universe that you are ready for more. It is not based on past results. It is based on future intention. When you start thinking like someone who has already arrived, when you behave like someone who belongs in abundance, you begin to vibrate on the level of your goals. And reality cannot help but respond to that vibration. Even when you don't have all the resources, when you don't know how the puzzle pieces will fit, your confidence allows you to keep moving. It becomes the bridge between your current reality and your future vision. Most people wait for validation, some external sign that they're good enough, smart enough, experienced enough. But the truth is, the most successful people became what they are because they didn't wait. They moved in the direction of their goals with unwavering belief, even when everything around them said, "You're not ready." You are never fully ready. No one ever is. Confidence is stepping into the unknown with the understanding that you will rise to meet the challenge, that you can adapt, that you can grow. And once you operate from that mindset, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to succeed. You see yourself as someone who is successful, who is simply in the process of unveiling it. And here's the key. Confidence is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about remembering who you truly are, beneath the conditioning, the fear, the self-doubt. It's about reclaiming your natural power, the kind that was never dependent on external achievements. When you reconnect with that power, you stop asking for permission. You stop explaining your dreams. You stop negotiating your standards. You begin to live as if you are already trusted, already chosen, already enough. And you, everything everything kind of evolves. That energy transforms everything. It changes the way people listen to you. It changes the way you listen to yourself. You start attracting experiences that mirror the way you now see yourself. Because confidence is a magnet, and when it comes from a deep place of self-trust, it pulls the right people, the right timing, and the right opportunities directly into your path. Decide right now to be confident, not because you've earned it, but because you are willing to grow into it. Walk into the world like someone who knows their presence matters. Move like someone who expects results. Speak like someone whose voice carries weight. Not because you're pretending, but because that version of you already exists. And it's time to let it lead. Stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting for someone to point at you and say, now you are ready. That moment may never come, not because you don't deserve it, but because the world is too busy to notice someone who hasn't noticed themselves first. If you're always waiting for a sign, for approval, for someone else to validate your worth, you'll stay parked in the same place, watching others rise while you hesitate. The truth is, power begins the moment you choose yourself. That single decision is what separates those who live with purpose from those who live in fear. When you choose yourself, you stop outsourcing your destiny. You stop handing over your power to opinions, rejections, and outside recognition. You stop asking for permission to be who you are. You decide that you're enough, that you're capable, and that you don't need to be invited into greatness. You can build your own room. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's essential. It's the moment you stop shrinking to fit expectations and start expanding into your potential. It means trusting your voice even when it shakes. It means honoring your vision even when no one claps for it. It means standing tall in rooms where people don't see your worth yet, because you do. The world often mirrors back what you believe about yourself. If you move through life like a secondary character, people will treat you like one. But when you walk in with the energy of someone who already believes in their purpose, their value, and their future, things begin to shift. People respond differently. Opportunities appear, not because you've been chosen, but because you finally chose yourself. And let's be clear, choosing yourself doesn't mean you have everything figured out. It doesn't mean you're fearless or perfect. It means you're willing to bet on yourself, willing to move forward without applause, willing to start where you are with what you have and trust that it's enough to begin. Because that's all you ever needed, to begin. Those people wait. They wait for the job offer. They wait for the relationship. They wait for the motivation. But waiting rarely builds anything. It just delays the life you're meant to live. Choosing yourself puts the power back in your hands. It wakes you up to your ability to lead your life from the inside out. There will always be people who don't understand you, who don't support you, who can't see your vision. That's okay. They weren't meant to carry it. You were. That vision inside you, that dream that keeps tugging at your soul, that's your responsibility, your assignment, your calling. And no one else can give you permission to fulfill it but you. When you choose yourself, you stop diluting your light. You stop dimming your energy to make others comfortable. You stop playing small in spaces that were never designed for your greatness. Instead, you rise. You speak, you act, you lead. And the more you do that, the more you realize something powerful. You never needed to be chosen. You only needed to wake up and remember who you are. This choice is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Every time you set a boundary, you choose yourself. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you choose yourself. Every time you honor your intuition, invest in your growth, or take a risk that others are too afraid to take, you're choosing yourself. And here's what happens next. Life begins to respond, not all at once, and not always in obvious ways, but slowly, consistently, you'll begin to notice things shift. People start treating you with more respect. New opportunities open. Your confidence grows. Your voice gets stronger. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Choosing yourself is the seed from which everything else grows. It is the foundation of self-respect, the engine of momentum, the key to becoming unstoppable. So stop waiting. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to crown you. That's your job. And the crown has been waiting. Reality bends not to noise, not to desperation, not even to ambition, but to inner certainty. It doesn't respond to how loud you shout your goals or how badly you want something. It responds to the quiet, unwavering energy of someone who knows who they are and where they're going. That kind of certainty is rare. Most people are busy broadcasting their fear, seeking validation, over-explaining themselves, trying to convince the world that they're worthy. But true power doesn't announce itself. It simply moves with calm authority. When you are certain within, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to post your every move, justify your decisions, or beg for recognition. You operate from alignment, not approval. You don't wait for signs or consensus. You become the sign. You understand that reality, opportunities, and even people begin to shift the moment you anchor into who you are. The world may not respond instantly, but it will respond faithfully. Because energy, not effort, is what moves mountains. Uncertainty within creates chaos outside. When you're unsure of yourself, life mirrors that uncertainty back to you. You hesitate, and the world hesitates with you. You second guess, and doors remain half open. You shrink, and the room seems smaller. But when you stand firm, even in silence, everything begins to expand. You stop getting caught up in the noise, the comparison, the constant need to react. You become still, focused, centered. And from that stillness, your reality begins to organize itself around you. People often believe that to gain control over their lives, they need to fix everything externally, change jobs, change relationships, change routines. But the most powerful transformation begins in your internal world. When you cultivate inner certainty, even the things that once overwhelmed you begin to lose their grip. You no longer move from fear, you move from clarity. You become the cause, not the effect. Think of a tree. It doesn't fight to be seen. It doesn't rush to grow, doesn't scream for attention, but its roots run deep, and because of that it stands tall no matter the storm. That's what inner certainty gives you, unshakable roots. And those roots are built not through noise, but through silence, through listening to your inner voice and trusting it more than the opinions of others. Most people react to life. They are in constant motion, responding to every criticism, every setback, every shift in mood. They are controlled by the external because they have no anchor within. But when you cultivate certainty, you don't react, you respond. You move with purpose, not panic. You navigate challenges with presence, not pressure. You're not thrown off course by distraction or doubt because you know who you are beneath the surface. Certainty doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you trust yourself enough to move forward without them. It means you no longer need the world to agree with your vision for it to be real. You've already agreed. You've already committed. And that commitment radiates louder than any noise ever could. You don't need to announce your dreams when your energy already carries them. You don't need to prove your worth when your presence speaks for itself. When you stop looking outward for confirmation and start living from that deep inner knowing, life begins to respond in kind. The right people are drawn to your energy. The right opportunities seem to coincidentally appear. But it's not coincidence. It's coherence. You become aligned from the inside out. If your reality feels chaotic, uncertain, or stuck, don't try to manipulate the external first. Go inward. Find your center. Tune into that place within you that already knows. That place that isn't swayed by rejection or applause. That place that remains steady, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Because from that place, you don't need to chase. You don't need to react. You don't even need to explain. You simply become. And when you become someone who trusts themselves fully, without noise, without panic, without the need to be seen, then reality begins to bend. Life rearranges itself to match the still, powerful frequency you now carry. The noise fades, the distractions dissolve, and the path ahead clears, not because the world changed, but because you did. The truth is, everything you desire, wealth, success, freedom, confidence, begins not in your circumstances, but in your mindset. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment, for someone's permission, or for a sign from the outside world. The shift happens the moment you decide to live from your future self now. Not in pretense, but in alignment. You walk, speak, think, and act like the version of you who already has what you seek. Because the world doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to certainty. It doesn't move for noise. It moves for presence. And when you carry yourself as someone who already belongs, already knows their worth, already chooses themselves every single day, the universe listens. You're not here to chase, you're here to attract. You're not here to beg, you're here to lead. So remember this. Act like you're already a millionaire. Not to impress anyone, but to awaken the version of you who was always meant to become one.